All right, Algebra 2, we made it to 4-8, the last section of this chapter. 4-8, quadratic inequalities. Yay, quadratic inequalities. I can hear you on the other end of the camera there. All right, we're going to just do a bunch of examples here. I've got y is greater than x squared plus 2x plus 1. So what I need to do when I do a quadratic inequality is I need to graph it. All right, so the first thing I want to do when I graph, when my equation or my inequality is in this form, I want to find the vertex. X equals negative b over 2a. And so 2 is my b value, 1 is my a value. So x equals negative b, negative 2, over 2 times a, which is 1. So x equals negative 2 divided by positive 2 is negative 1. So this is my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to find negative 1. Bop. Oops, right there. Okay. X equals negative 1. And it's also the x value of my vertex. So I'm going to plug y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 1. I was in the middle of a sentence, wasn't I? I'm going to plug negative 1 in for x and then find out what y is when x is negative 1. Y equals negative 1 squared is positive 1 minus 2 plus 1. So negative 1 minus 2 is negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So y equals 0 when x equals 1. Negative 1, sorry. So I have a point right here. My vertex is negative 1, 0 is my vertex. So if you remember, now I need to plug in a few more points. Negative 1, 0 is my vertex. I'm going to plug in a few points so that I can see what this graph is going to look like. Now I know from my a value that this is going to open up like this. So I'm not going to have any of my graph down here. I'm just going to open up like this. So I'm going to plug in 2 points on each side, negative 2, negative 3, and 0 and 1. I'm going to plug in 0 first because that's the easiest one. That I end up with 1. Plug in 1, I get 1 plus 2, which is 3, plus 1, which is 4. Now I can talk through putting these other ones in here, but I'll just tell you they're going to be 4 and 1. We're going to have this symmetry here. So I'm going to go 0, 1, negative 3, negative 2, 1, and then 1, 4, and negative 2, 4. Now, I'm about to draw my graph. Before I do, I need to look at my original equation, and I have y is greater than all of this mess. Notice it's not greater than or equal to. Since it's greater than and not or equal to, then my parabola needs to be represented by a dotted line. It needs to be dotted because the parabola itself is not included here in this inequality. So it's got to be dotted. Now, I need to shade one side or the other of this. Y is greater than this, so I know I can shade here. Now, if I'm not sure, if I don't remember that, I'm going to find a point here, just a random point. 0, 0 is a really good point to see. Now, I'm going to plug this point in. Let's see what happens. 0 is greater than 0 squared plus 2 times 0 plus 1. So all of this mess, okay, 0, 0 plus 1. 0 is greater than 1. Is 0 greater than 1? No, it's not greater than 1. No way. So that means if it doesn't make sense, then it shouldn't be shaded. All right? Doesn't make sense. or is not true, don't shade. So if it doesn't make sense, don't shade that part. Shade the other part. All right, bop. There you go. Okay. Now, when I did these notes before, I went straight to a U-try. Let's just do another one together. Y is less than or equal to x squared plus 2x plus 4. All right, I'm going to find my vertex, the x value of my vertex. X equals negative b, which is 2, over 2 times 1, which is a. So I've got negative 1 again. X equals negative 1. So let's start drawing this guy. X equals negative 1 is my axis of symmetry. Now I'm going to plug negative 1 back in here to find out what y equals. Y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 4. So this is positive 1 minus 2 plus 4 equals y. And so this mess, 1 minus 2 is negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. So my vertex is negative 1, positive 3. That's my vertex. Now I need to make a t-table. I'm going to do that over here now. Negative 1, positive 3, so I want to plug in negative 2, negative 3, and 0, and positive 1. If I plug 0 in to the original inequality, I get 4. If I plug 1 in, I get 1 plus 2, which is 3, plus 4, which is 7. And then if I were to plug these numbers in here, I would also get 4 and 7. And so now I'm just going to graph this guy. So 0, 4, negative 2, 4, 1, 5, 6, 7, and negative 3, 7. Now I look at my inequality and it says or equals to over here, so that means I can do a solid line or a parabola. Y is less than, so I'm going to shade everything that's less than that. If I'm not sure what to do, just plug in 0, 0 here and see if it makes sense. Does 0, 0 make sense? Okay, plug in 0 for y is greater than, or is less than or equal to 4, right? 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. Is 4 greater than or equal to 0, or is 0 less than or equal to 4? Yes, it is. So that's the area that we should be shading. All right, your turn. Y is less than negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. All right, go ahead and pause and do that one. Go. All right, let's see how you did. X equals negative b, which is 4, over 2 times a, which is negative 2. And so x equals negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1. X equals 1 is my axis of symmetry. There's, whoops, I'll make that one a little bit closer. There we go. Axis of symmetry, x equals 1. And then I need to plug my 1 back into the original equation, or inequality, but I'm going to make it into equation here, to find out what my vertex is. 4 times 1 plus 5, so I plugged 1 in for x. Now 1 squared is 1, so I've got negative 2 plus 4 plus 5 equals y. So negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2, plus 5 is 7. So my vertex is 1, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My vertex is 1, 7. Now, notice how I wrote my point up here a little bit. That's because I looked and I saw that my graph was going to open down, so I left myself space for my graph. Pretty smart. Good thinking there, Mr. V. X, Y, t-table. 1, 7. I'm going to plug in 0 and -1 and 2 and 3 to get the basic shape of this thing. When I plug in 0, I get 5. When I plug in -1, -1 times -1 is +1, so that's -2. And then I'm going to have -4 because I multiply that 4 by -1. So -2 minus 4, that's -6, plus 5 is -1. Did I do that right? I plug in 1. Oh, I'm plugging in 1, not oh no, I'm plugging in -1. Dude, I'm a mess. All right. -1. So I plug in -1. I get -2 minus 4, which is -6, plus 5 is -1. -1. Okay, that's okay. Everything is all right. We're going to be fine. Plug in 2, and I get 5. Plug in 3, I get -1. Now, I would, if I had that little mishap, or like, you know, misunderstanding or confusion or whatever, I would plug in this 3, but I've already done this problem, so I just double checked. I am correct here with this -1. So, let's plot these points. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pop. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pop. -1, -1, -1, -1. There we go. And then 3, 1, 2, 3, -1. There we go. Now I'm going to check to make sure it's not or equals to, or and that means that I have to do a dotted parabola like that. And y is less than, so I'm going to shade underneath. And that is that's it on that one. All right. Good. Hope you guys got that one okay. Now there's a little bit more to do for the notes today. Quadratic inequalities in one variable. Okay, what are we talking about? Here's an example. I've got x squared plus 2x minus 8 is greater than 0. Notice, greater than 0. I don't have a y value. And I'm talking about 0 here. Okay. So let's work this out a little bit, and we'll see what we do. So there's no y value, there's no f of x, it's just x, only one variable, single variable. Now what do I add together to get 2, multiply together to get -8? So I've got to factor this thing is what I'm doing, right? So I add together to get 2, multiply together to get -8. How about +4 and -2? That'll get me +2 if I add them and -8 if I multiply them. So I say this equals 0. And so I can set these each equal to 0. And so I would get x equals -4, and I would get x equals +2. Notice how it's just the opposite of what we see in here, -4, +2. Okay, now if I was going to graph this as a parabola, notice I would be wrong if I graph this as a parabola because I don't have a y value. I only have x, so it's going to be a number line is the way we're going to graph this. But just for the sake of Mr. V showing you what we're talking about here, let me graph this as a parabola. So -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 are my roots, or my zeros. This is where y would be 0 if I was, notice y is 0. If y was here, it would be 0. So, and then this opens up, right, because it's +a. So if I were to open up like this is how my parabola would be. Now, so let's start this actually too. 0, 1, 2, and so there's 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4. Okay, notice how I haven't put a dot on there yet. Now this was not or equals to, so this should be a dotted parabola, right? Okay, so it's not or equals to, so that means I should have an open circle at 4, an open circle at 2, sorry, negative 4. Okay, a little bit at a time. Now, we are saying that this is less than 0. We are looking for the parts where the x values are less than 0. So that means if this is 0 right here, then everything less than 0 is under here. So that means this part is the part that satisfies this inequality. So if I was to graph this, I would go to negative 4, from negative 4 to 2, like that. So that's how you graph this. And the solution would say negative 4 is less than x is less than 2. Let's do another one. We got 2 more of these to do. X squared plus 5x minus 6 is less than 0. All right, so I'm going to factor this. What do I add together to get positive 5, multiply together to get negative 6? How about positive 6 and negative 1 plus 6 minus 1? And so I set that equal to 0, and I find that x equals negative 6 and positive 1. So I personally like to draw my parabola. You don't have to, but it is very helpful to see where on the line, where we're talking about that needs to be shaded or not shaded or whatever. So let's go ahead and do that. 1 and negative 6. Now, this is not or equals to, so 1 and 6 are not included. And this opens up, so this is, the a value is positive, so that means my parabola is going to open up like this. And now I have to decide, are my arrows going to be over here or are they going to be below? 0 is greater than this, or this is less than 0. So that means, again, we're shading underneath here. So if I was to draw this on a number line, I would shade right here, 0 to 0, negative 6 to 1. So I've got negative 6 is less than, x is less than positive 1. Okay, let's see if you can do one on your own here. Negative x squared plus 3x plus 10 is less than or equal to 0. Less than or equal to this time. And we've got a parabola that opens a different direction. All right, go ahead and pause and see what you can do with this. Go. Okay, let's see how you did. Now, this one is kind of tricky. So, because you have to take care of this negative in order to really do this one. And so I should have told you that before I told you to pause. So I need to multiply this whole thing. What I do to one side, I do to the other, by negative 1. So I get x squared, positive x squared, minus 3x minus 10 is greater than or equal to 0. 0 times negative 1 is 0. I flip this because I multiplied by a negative. I multiplied both sides by a negative, so I need to switch my sign. Now I can solve this. X times x plus something, x minus something. What do I put in here? What do I add together to get negative 3, multiply together to get positive, negative 10? That would be negative 5 and positive 2. Set that equal to 0. I get x equals positive 5 and negative 2. So now I'm going to graph this thing. Positive 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and it's going to be a solid dot because it's or equals to, and then -2, 1, 2, solid because it's or equals to. Now, I look at this, I say this x value here is positive, so I'm going to make it go up like this. And then 0 is less than this, or this is greater than 0. So I'm looking at the part that's above 0. So I'm looking at this and this part that's above 0, that's greater than 0. So that means on my number line, it would look like this, because I'm looking at the x values. So it would be these ones. So the way that I would write this would be x is less than, what was this number? -2, and this is 5. X is less than 5, and x is, x is less than -2, and x is greater than 5. And that's how I would write that. And that is it for 4-8. Woo! Time for a little review and test. Sounds good to me. Good luck.